Hi, fifth grade. Here we are for some more science. You need your packet and your highlighters, and we're going to go to page 6. And yesterday we were talking about the kind of weathering that there were, and remember that there are 3 types of weathering. It comes in physical, chemical, and biological kinds or types. Physical can be breaking apart of the rock by wind or water or temperature changes. The physical, go ahead and look at where you highlighted yesterday. That's when water can enter the cracks, it can freeze, it can expand and pushes the rock apart. Then go ahead down and look at chemical weathering. The rock is going to dissolve or change when water or oxygen reacts with the minerals in the rock. Remember that God made minerals? Rocks are always being made, but God made minerals just that once, so we don't get any more. And then biological weathering is the breaking down of rock by organisms like trees or mosses, that lichen stuff that I showed you yesterday, and even bacteria. Today we're going to talk about erosion and deposition or deposition, and how it causes changes to the Earth's crust, which we know is very, very small, but yet very, very big at the same time. We're also going to learn about how fossils form, and I'm sure you've seen fossils and learned about them, so it should be pretty easy. We're going to go over paragraphs 3 and 4. This is going to take us a couple days, so we're going to start today and do the rest on Monday. In paragraph 3, I will read it and you can follow along. It says, erosion is the movement of rock and soil to new locations by water, wind, glaciers, or gravity. Moving water in streams, rivers, or rainwater runoff picks up and carries away rock and soil in its path, creating landforms such as gullies, valleys, and canyons. Winds pick up and move soil and small rock particles. Glaciers, dense, slow-moving ice masses, erode rocks and soil as the glaciers move. I thought that was kind of cool. So, and I had never really thought of the gully before. We're going to see some pictures in a little bit. What I showed you, what I'm showing you now is a picture of erosion. This is along a beach. You can see how a grass, maybe it would have been called maybe a bluff. A bluff came up, but either due to wind or maybe the waters rose, or maybe there was a type of storm like a hurricane that came through and made the waters rise and hit the area. The soil eroded away. And so you see the green grass on the top and how it's just it's been carved out. It's a really cool picture, I think. And then you have the water line down below where you see some sand and things like that. So I thought this was a cool picture to look at, and we're going to look at some more later. So let's go ahead and take out our highlighters, and we're going to highlight 2 words in the first sentence. We're going to highlight erosion and movement. Highlighting erosion, movement. Because water causes erosion because it can pick up and carry rocks and soil in its path. If you've ever been to the ocean, and I asked some of you last week if you've ever gone to the ocean, and you probably have seen the waves come in really rough, and you've also probably seen waves very calm. The picture that I'm showing here, the water seems very calm right now, very good to swim in. But the ocean waves and the currents underneath, it can make it really powerful too, and can put water in the path of rocks and soil, and it makes it erode. So we've had some problems here in Pittsburgh in the last year with mudslides because things have gotten so wet that the mud is just sliding down, and we have so many hills in Pittsburgh that things are just sliding right down because of gravity. Okay, they want me to show you some pictures right now, so I'm gonna do a little presto changeo. Just a few of them right now. So we have, you fell down. There you go. We have a gully. And it's going to be formed by running water or eroding soil. So you're not going to see this maybe in the tops of places, but maybe as the water is trickling down a mountain or down a hillside, and it's going to take the soil and it's going to break that soil down. Pretty cool picture. Our next one, photo B, is our valleys and areas of low land between the hills. So again, you can see some really cool mountains there, very level. And look at the stream in the middle. All that water had to rush down those mountains, and it formed in one place. It took a really cool curve. I like those type of pictures, to know that it just went like that naturally. And if, when it rains, like it rained last night and this morning, it's interesting to follow the path of the water droplets. Some of them are heavier than others, but the water came right on down through here and just made this really nice natural curve. Kind of cool. God does cool stuff. And we have one more, so this is a valley. And then photo C, this looks like the Grand Canyon in Arizona. A canyon is a narrow valley with steep rock walls formed by moving water. So you have that river, the canyon. Look at the way the rock has been cut away by glaciers probably in the past. So pretty to look at. Let me know in a classroom comment if you've ever gone to the Grand Canyon and what you thought about it. I have just, I drove by them and I flew over them in an airplane, and it was pretty cool, very unforgettable. So I wonder if you guys have ever gone to the Grand Canyon. I think Michael might have, if I remember. So let me know. You can put it in a comment and let me know if you've ever gone and what you thought about it. All right, so we have this Grand Canyon here. We've seen the rainwater runoff. Maybe you've seen a gully before. We're going to go ahead to paragraph 4 and go ahead and follow along while I read it. Deposition is the laying down of depositing of rock, soil, or the remains of organisms. When moving water or wind slows, some of the rock and soil suspended in the water or air settles out. Rock and soil that settle out are deposited in new locations are called sediment. Deltas and sandbars are landforms created when moving water deposits sediment. A sand dune is a hill formed when sand carried by wind is deposited. A landform called a moraine is formed when a glacier deposits rock and soil along its edges. We are going to highlight in the first sentence 2 words. We're going to highlight deposition, and we're going to highlight its little buddy there, depositing. Deposition and depositing. So when water or wind slows, some of the rock and the soil, they get suspended, meaning they stop, they freeze, and it kind of just settles out. Remember when we did our bottles back in the fall, and some of the stuff that we added in the bottles, it settled down to the bottom, but then if I shook it up again, it went and mixed. Think about that when you think about settling. Or we had that bottle of Italian dressing where all of the spices and stuff, they settled down to the bottom. That's the settling part. So it happens out in nature too. And so we have different kinds of examples here. We're going to go to the third sentence at the end and highlight the word sediment. Sediment. And then they tell us a bunch of new words here. We have a delta and a sandbar. We talked about sandbars last week. I remember telling Topher about them. Deltas and sandbars. We have a sand dune when sand is carried by wind. There are some really cool sand dunes in the state of Michigan and the bottom or the top of Indiana at the bottom of Lake Michigan, and there's a lot of sand dunes. So if you ever get a chance to go see those are some pretty cool sand dunes. I think there might be some in the Carolinas as well. Then we have that word moraine. It's going to be when rock and soil are carried by a glacier and then they're just deposited. It carries it and then it stops. And so that's going to be what we call a place called a moraine. So I have more pictures here. Here is then D. A delta is a triangular deposit of sediment at the mouth of the river where the river enters the ocean. That's kind of cool. Look at how it does that triangle thing. It all came from here and it gathered and then it spread. Oh, that's kind of cool. A sandbar, here it is. It's a deposit of sediment where it's built up by waves or currents. So the water has pushed things different ways depending on how the wind has blown. Excuse my hand. And you get little parts. Like there's some water still and there's some water in between, but where the sand was moved, it makes a big collection of sand, and they call that a sandbar. A sand dune, see, that's cool. I think that's a cool picture. It's a hill formed when the sand is deposited by the wind. That's cool. It looks like a piece of art. A moraine, here is it where the glacier settles things, formed when a glacier deposits rock and soil along its edges. That's really cool too. Oops, I went too far. All right, we are going to stop there today. So we went through 2 paragraphs, we went through some pictures, and we did some highlighting, and that's where we will leave off today. So hopefully you're having a good time. Let me know if you've ever gone to the Grand Canyon. If you want to say something else too, go ahead and pop it in the classroom. You can also email me too. I hope you guys are doing well and everybody's healthy, and no homework tonight, just watching our video. I am going to post a Google question so that I can make sure that everyone's coming to science class and that you're watching, and I will ask you a question, so I want you to answer it. So there will be something for you to do in the Google Classroom for the Google question. So I hope to see everybody answering. Have a good day. Enjoy school at home, and I'll be back.